Hey guys, Bestie here, bringing you another day in the life of a struggling P2 player. Today, I'm actually up against someone that's playing P3 or Starpack, and I personally have a fair bit of Starpack experience. So, when you played the pack before, it actually helps a lot because you'll know what's coming, like what their options are and what kind of counterplay they can do. So, a good tip for people that are starting with P2 or Puppy Pack is to actually play other packs as well, because that way you gain experience with what other packs can do, and I just find it like a good way to learn, not just to continuously play the same pack that you're trying to main. And today, I actually want to go through a few important points. So, for starters, I want to point out the importance of breakpoints. So, breakpoints are sort of the bread and butter of SAP, because a good breakpoint can make all the difference between losing or winning. And in this game, you'll find that the breakpoints actually come really down to the wire, and sometimes a good breakpoint is all you need if your opponent is on lethal. Because if you don't actively try and meet those breakpoints, your opponent will snowball to a degree that will make you harder and harder to catch up. So, keeping in mind breakpoint is a must. And on top of that, it is also really important to position your pets in a manner that they deal with your opponent's pets accordingly. So, for example, if I have a panther and I want it to clear their smaller pets when my opponent has a big pet in front, I want it to position my panther towards the back. So it all comes down to where you position your pets and how efficiently you can do that, and also making sure you're calculating your breakpoints. So P3 is actually very scary when the opponent has a fairy armadillo. It's one of those pets that's almost like a win condition, and usually at the beginning they will position the fairy Armadillo in a manner that they will survive a hit to gain that tournament HP, because that's it's part of its ability. And so denying that value will be the main goal. And as you can see here, because I knocked out the fairy Armadillo without it getting hurt, I denied it value. And now I actually have a sizable beetle, and I try my best to be as gold efficient as possible, so that's why I took that apple. Maybe that apple was a mistake, but I think it's okay. And now my opponent positioned the fairy armadillo at the back, and that is actually very smart, because as you can see here, it managed to gain its permanent health. And my opponent's also running Sparrow, which is very hard to deal with. So right now, since I have a lobster on board, I've decided to sell a pet and get ferret so I can get the lobster buff. And now I got 2 hatch and chick on board and a lobster with ferret and a big beetle. So right now I'm not really looking to win. I'm mostly looking for level ups, and I'm looking for a better pet to pivot into, because I know for a fact that a big beetle will not be sufficient enough to beat my opponent. And right here my breakpoints was actually kind of bad, but I still managed to win because I managed to have 1 pet alive on board. And here I see my pivot pet, which is my panther. So I decided to get a panther, a double lobster, and maybe I should have taken lasagna, but I figured I want to roll for other pets, so I didn't take the lasagna. But I feel like I should have frozen the lasagna there, which could have helped, but it ended up being okay. Like, it wasn't very important, but it would have helped. But you know what they say, beggars can't be choosers. So yep, so my panther's putting in a lot of work. So I still have 2 lobsters on board, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna try and win by putting an eagle at the back, which is one of those strategies that P2 players use because they want to have a pet alive after everything else dies, and that's sort of like the win condition. And here my breakpoints weren't exactly ideal, so I know at this point, if I don't win the next game, this game is pretty much over, because they have a big fairy armadillo. But what you see is that my opponent actually managed to lollipop Fairy Armadillo. And when your opponent lollipops a Fairy Armadillo, it actually goes into a state where it's weaker because it's just has really low HP and really high attack. So I sort of used that to my advantage, and I put a stonefish with pie, which is actually strong enough to deal damage and get rid of the strawberry, which is really important because Sparrow only blocks 5 damage twice, which is means my beetle, let me replay, my beetle was strong enough to kill the Fairy Armadillo, as you can see there. And then all that is left is having my Plamper clear the board, which happens to be just enough. Okay, hopefully I explained it as best as I can, and I hope you enjoyed, and also just have a good one.